It's time for Bitcoin is Freedom. So every card you connect with Roundly X, every swipe you take with Roundly X, every single day, every purchase you make, you'll be stacking sats. Hey, use code Bitcoin is Freedom and you'll get $15 to get started. Go sign up today at www.roundlyx.com. It's Bitcoin and Freedom time.
Here we go.
Let's get started.
Cheesy, I know, but hey, what else are you gonna do in life except have some fun, right? Hey folks, you guys know I love wearing my orange shirt on Thursdays because a good friend of mine gave it to me. His name is Brian Swan, also known as Flibbo Swanee. If you know him, you should definitely check him out on Twitter. I wish he'd get off Twitter and come over to WooBits, but that's a different story. I'm gonna have a lot of fun today, guys. This is gonna be a good show because there's a lot that's come up. This show was actually sort of created, or the idea came to me because I was talking to my brother-in-law about Bitcoin. And just going through that, talking to someone who's sort of new to it, brings up a lot of very interesting things that I think sometimes we in Bitcoin land say that probably isn't 100% true. And so I'll get to that in a minute. So the first thing I want to talk about is, again, just the title of the show. Hey, how many sats will sat you free, right? And the reason that I asked that question is because it's a good question. How much Bitcoin really is enough? And if you've been in this space any amount of time, you've heard some outlandish stuff that people have said about how much Bitcoin you need. And I want to try to set that record straight a little bit. But before I get to that topic, let me talk to you guys about what's been happening. We start off with price. Why? Because it's easy to count money. Right? Easy to count money. And so if you zoom out and look at Bitcoin from a long-term perspective, we started off this year with Bitcoin being around, actually, and it was much lower than 20. It was down in the teens. It was down in 17, 15, I think it was, at the very beginning of the year. And so January 15th, at the beginning of the year, it was at $20,880. Those were those scary days, right? We didn't know where the price was going to go. And then in May, and this is just last month, it made it $27,192.69. And then, of course, today, Bitcoin's trading right around $25,000, which is a great number for what I'm going to talk about throughout the show. So if you look back just 1 month, we're down $2,220. And that would probably make a lot of people nervous, right? Probably makes you nervous. The fact that you saw yourself buy Bitcoin at $27,000, thinking we're going to the moon again, to have it pull back to 25 where it is right now. But if you zoom out a little bit and you look year to date, you're up $4,000, right? Not bad at all, right? Show me any other product, any other service, any other asset that you could have invested in that got you $4,000 profit in 6 months, right? Probably not going to happen. Now, that's making an assumption that you would have bought one Bitcoin at the beginning of the year and you held it to now. So what we're seeing too as a result of the regulatory environment is, and if you're not paying attention to this, you should. And if you're reading my daily brief, you would understand this and you'd see a lot more clear. But my daily brief comes out every day and I publish it on a platform called Publish 0x. But if you're following me on LinkedIn, you're going to get all of that. If you check out my website, cryptocurator.com, you're going to get that. If you're on WooBits, you will definitely get that. WooBits.com, you should definitely check it out. So what I'm making a point here is saying that if you're paying attention, this regulatory environment has caused a very interesting situation. And what's happening is that everybody is starting to move back to Bitcoin. The Bitcoin dominance is at 47.5 and ETH is at 19.4. So right now, there's news came out that talked about Celsius, and it said that everybody is pushing their money into Bitcoin. with Celsius, they're trying to submit a plan to liquidate all other cryptos and move all of that into either Bitcoin or Ethereum. That's a big statement. And we're starting to see more and more people move into Bitcoin and Ethereum. Why? Because those two assets are probably the safest. And we know Bitcoin by fact is a commodity, no doubt, no question, no regulatory issues there. Ethereum is the one that's still up for question. But if you listen to half the nonsense that happened this last week, and Gary Gensler and all the stuff that's going on with the lawsuits against Binance, Coinbase, it's bringing into question if Ethereum is a security or not. Even I think it was Mark Cuban who said it's so hard you can't tell what is a security and what isn't a security. And I don't want to get into a security discussion here, but the point that I'm making is that right now everyone is starting to understand what many have said, and especially the Bitcoin maxis. And I'm not a toxic maxi, I'm a Bitcoin maxi light. Is that Bitcoin, right? If you want to play with something else, fine, but put your hard-earned money into Bitcoin. Why? It's the best. So this week we did see three different things as far as metrics and indicators, articles that came out about Bitcoin. And the first one is the market value to realized value. That's the MVRV. And the article there that's linked talked about us being at a decision point. Now, this came out before the CPI printed and before the Fed came out and made their announcement about no interest rate hike. So it said it was at a decision point, and a good call on the MVRV because we were at a decision point. Unfortunately, the decision we got is not one that we liked, and that is that first Bitcoin popped, then it dropped like a rock, right? If you're paying attention to Alessio Rastani, he talked about when the Fed pivots, which means the Fed stops raising interest rates and begins to cut rates again, we're going to see the market crash. Now, the jury is still out on if that will actually happen. But so far, I think Alessio is pretty right. The MACD has flipped bearish, and there's a pattern, though, and this is a chart pattern, technical analysis pattern, that says a mega bull run's on the horizon. So what many people have said, and I believe it is true, is that you're going to get a nice little drop before we get the big pop. And so are we starting to see some of that? Maybe. But again, I'm not the technical, financial, certified technician. I'm just not. That's Fibbo Swanee, this guy. Don't fight the fibs. You should check him out because he's going to keep you up to speed what's going on in the market and what's happening with the price and if you should be in or should be out. Now, before I go on, let me say this too. Trying to trade Bitcoin is a dangerous thing. Why? Because it's an emotional roller coaster. And unless you've got some serious time on your hands to watch this market, trying to trade it is a fool's errand. Don't do it. Guys, listen, stacking sats is the best game. This is what I tell my brother-in-law. Stacking sats is the name of the game. The more stats you wow, that's a tongue twister. The more sats you stack, the better off you'll be. So let's take a look at that. Let's look at it by the numbers, shall we? So if we're looking at Satoshis, now for those of you who are not familiar with Satoshis, that's the smallest unit of a Bitcoin. And there are 100 million Satoshis in every Bitcoin. And this is where, if you follow Mark Yusko, he says that there's 21 quadrillion, right? 21 quadrillion Satoshis in the market. That's what it's going to ultimately be. But there's 100 million Satoshis in every Bitcoin. So this is the breakdown of what a Satoshi, the value of a Satoshi, based on Bitcoin trading at $25,000 where it is right now today. So if you just wanted one simple sat, guys, it's way less than a penny. It's a fraction of a fraction of a fraction of a penny, 0.00025, right? And then if you look at 10 sats, think of it as a dime, right? Penny dime, you're looking at 0.0025. Again, still a fraction of a penny. If you had 100 sats, think of that as $100 or just not $100, $1. Then you're looking at 0.025. That's now you're looking at 2 cents for a Satoshi. If you had 1,000 Satoshis, that's 25 cents. 10,000 Satoshis, $2.50. 100,000 Satoshis, almost all of y'all can afford 100,000 Satoshis right now. That's $25. Now we start getting into the place where it gets a little interesting. You got 1 million Satoshis right now, it'll cost you $250. Some of you might laugh, or some of you might look at me and shake your head when I say this, but some people struggle to own a million sats. Why? It's $250. Normal people, and I get to this in later on in the show too, a normal person. This is what Andrew Yang, who ran for president, guy that's in charge of the Ford Party, wrote a book called The War on Normal People. He said that Normal people can't afford $500 for an emergency. $250, $1 million Satoshis. There's some people that can't afford that, folks. Listen, not everyone is well off, and some of us, and this is why I'm doing the show too, because I think in Bitcoin land, a lot of us, we get wrapped up in this. Really, it's about the privileged class. Bitcoin right now is about the privileged class, and I don't want to mess up my brief. But anyway, 10 million Satoshis, you need $2,500. That's out of the reach of a lot of people. And then 100 million Satoshis, way out of the reach of most people, $25,000. So you go tell the average person on the street, hey, go buy a Bitcoin. They'll look at you like you're smoking something, right? They'll be like, are you smoking crack? Most people don't even have that at all. I mean, they can even say $25,000 in a year. Nevertheless, have one. It's ludicrous. This is why this is a ludicrous conversation about how much Bitcoin you need and it's going to make you a millionaire and blah, blah, blah. So the Coinbase Satoshi converter is at the bottom of that. Please, if you want that, click on it. That'll help you know how many Satoshis how much it's worth and how many Satoshis you can get for whatever value as the price moves all over the place. Okay, let's look at some projections, shall we? And the reason I do this is, again, for the same reason. For this ludicrous conversation of people talking about how little Bitcoin you can have and you're going to be the top 1% of the 1%ers, right? Not true. Not true. Listen, if Bitcoin right now is valued at $25,000, right? So if you had 1 million Satoshis, that's $250. Not bad. Let's just say today, after this broadcast, everybody goes out, slams the buy button, smashes the buy button, buys $250 worth of Bitcoin. Good job, everybody. Y'all now 1 million Satoshinaires, right? 1 million Satoshinaires. I just make that word up. A Satoshinaire. So you got 1 million of them. Now, let's just say you do nothing else. That's it. You only smash the buy button, $250. That's all you want. You're done. You take those Satoshis, you store them over in your hardware wallet. You're good to go. You walk away. If Bitcoin was to reach $1 million, your $250 would turn into 10,000. And for some people, that might make a difference to them. To some of us, we laugh, right? And we're like, $10,000, right? Good job. That's no money. But then if Bitcoin went to Hyperbitcoinization and reached $100 million, which some people think that might happen by the year 2030, 7 years from today, fast forward to June 15th, 2030, and Bitcoin's at 100 million, you got yourself $1 million. $1 million liquid cash. There is not many people in the world today that have $1 million liquid cash at all. Most people might have $1 million, but that's tied up in real estate, tied up in other assets, things of that nature. Most people don't have a liquidable net worth of $1 million just sitting in the bank. That would be amazing. All from smashing the buy button today for $250. How many of you are going to actually do that? Listen, I challenge you. And if you do it, please leave me a comment below, because I would like to know if you actually did it. $250 gets you 1 million Satoshis a day if you smash the buy button and Bitcoin does what we think it's going to do. And we're in a world 7 years from today and Bitcoin is at $100 million. You got yourself $1 million. I already hear it. Some people go, yeah, Paul. Yeah. But here's the problem, Paul. When you get $1 million in 7 years, what if the price of bread is $5? What if milk is $10? What your $1 million doesn't go as far as you think it does, and so all of a sudden you're still screwed, right? Because you still don't have enough. Having $1 million in the bank 7 years from today, what type of financial difference will that make? I don't know. And this is part of the other crux of the matter. It's up to you. What is your end goal? What are you trying to achieve, right? If you're trying to retire, like never work again, never do anything to create any value ever again in your life, and that's all you're going to live on, you're going to need a hell of a lot more than $1 million. I'm sorry, I hate to tell you that. You're going to need a lot more than $1 million. But if you are someone who feels they're going to be productive for a very long time, you're good to go. And again, I'm going to get to a little bit more of that after I read through this. But let's talk about hyperbitcoinization, shall we? What I'm going to read to you comes from a paper written by Obi-Wan Kenobit. And I'm going to have, actually on the last slide, The Hyperbitcoinization link was there. That's a link from Bitcoin Magazine, and it gives you not only OB1 paper on the Hyperbitcoinization, but there's 2 other papers that are also written about Hyperbitcoinization that's on there. I beg you all, listen, I've told many people, do not listen to me. I want you to read what I read, watch what I watch, and listen to what I listen to. If you do that, I promise you, you don't need me. You don't need me squawking in your ear about Bitcoin because you're going to get it from the horse's mouth. I don't need you guys later saying, oh, Paul said. No, Paul didn't say anything. Paul asked you to read, watch, and listen with him. And that's what I want you to do, because if you do that, you're going to get it probably faster than I will, because I'm not as smart as some things, believe it or not. Okay, let's get on to Hyperbitcoinization. I'm going to read this word for word because it's really good, and I want this to sink in. Hyperbitcoinization is a state where Bitcoin becomes the world's dominant form of money. Think about that. It's going to become the world's most dominant form of money. If that happens, you can see why it'd be worth $100 million. Bitcoin is socially wired and can be adopted exponentially. As it gains traction, it will seem to be an organic, self-organizing process. In the model shared below, Bitcoin is in the infrastructure build-out phase and an early form of money. However, when it passes a critical tipping point, note that tipping point, Bitcoin adoption, use, and price will skyrocket. Remember the equation from Robert Breedlove, 21 million fixed supply. We know that's never, ever changing. Plus massive demand. That's what this is talking about, that tipping point. Number got to go up, right? With rapid global acceptance, and this is global acceptance, and as most of you know, Bitcoin is global. The cost of rejecting Bitcoin will exceed the cost of adopting it. Got that? The cost of rejecting it is going to exceed the cost of adopting it. Bitcoin will begin to assume money's traditional roles and gain institutional and government support. It will become all money and form the backbone of the new global economy. He goes on to say, at Hyperbitcoinization, and this is Obi-Wan Kenobi saying this, I estimate Bitcoin will reach up to $100 million per coin within 20 years. Note when he wrote this, 20 years ago, right, in 2010. So he says the current price is 0.01% of the future value. We're so early. And you guys have heard this before. I think it was, again, Mark Yusko. Everybody knows I'm a big fan of his. But he said the national anthem had just finished playing, right? So the game hasn't even started. So we're very early. Bitcoin is currently experiencing micro bubbles. A lot of people think these is the mother of all bubbles. It's not, micro bubbles. And future appreciation will continue nearly unabated until it plateaus at a stable price. At that point is when I believe we will see Bitcoin move from a medium of exchange to a unit of account, right? Store value right now. Soon it will become a medium of exchange, and technically it already is a medium of exchange. Some people use Bitcoin to purchase and buy things with. Then it'll shift to unit of account. But it can't be a unit of account until the price is stable enough that any fluctuation in price doesn't move the value of a single dollar, basically. Bitcoin affords us the opportunity to radically change our relationship with money. You will own your money. Get that? You will own your money. If you think you own your money today, you are kidding yourself. You do not own your money. If your money is sitting in Bank of America, if your money is sitting in JP Morgan, if your money is sitting in, you name the bank, Wells Fargo, it's not your money. It's the bank's money. And at any moment the bank wanted to, they could secure that. Now people say, well, we got FDIC. Of course we got FDIC. But you saw what happened with Signature, Silicon Valley Bank, right? It's not your money. Central bank machinations will come to an end. 20 years ago, we could not imagine how the internet would change our lives. In the next 20 years, Bitcoin will reframe our role as citizens in a borderless global economy. Guys, do yourself a favor, read the rest of his article. It will serve you so well because you're going to truly get what Bitcoin really is. And if you do that, you're going to be happy. So let's take a look at what some scenarios that could possibly drive the hyperbitcoinization. Now, this was done a long time ago, so some of this stuff is completely OBE. Don't worry about it. Businesses start hoarding Bitcoin. Could you imagine when businesses hoard Bitcoin? Well, we got one business that's hoarding Bitcoin. What's the name of that business? Most of you can say it with me. MicroStrategy. That's right. They own 140,000 Bitcoin. Seems like they're hoarding Bitcoin, eh? Not only does MicroStrategy own Bitcoin, but Elon Musk, Tesla owns Bitcoin, and Square owns some Bitcoin. And there'll be more and more companies starting to own Bitcoin, and they're going to hoard those Bitcoin. Then as Bitcoin value grows, the market cap will grow. Most people don't realize how much of a genius MicroStrategy is going to look like, but the moment Bitcoin hits $100,000, MicroStrategy stock is going to go through the roof. And guess who's buying MicroStrategy stock? News came out today that banks are loading up on MicroStrategy. Why? Because they hold 140,000 Bitcoin. And when the price of Bitcoin goes up, they're going to be in good shape. It is a proxy to owning actual Bitcoin. Banks can say right now, guess what? We can own MicroStrategy. We don't have to touch that crummy Bitcoin. And behind MicroStrategy is not only Bitcoin, but he's got a actual business that's producing value as well. So they believe that's a very safe proxy, is owning MicroStrategy. But let's not kid yourself. If you really understand what Bitcoin is, you know that there's no better asset to hold other than Bitcoin. MicroStrategy stock, it's not going to cut it. It's really Bitcoin is what you're going to want. Then more companies convert their treasury reserves into Bitcoin, hyperbitcoinization. That's one possible scenario. Back when Facebook was trying to do their little Facebook coin thing, there was a scenario for that, showing the world that that wasn't the real deal. Bitcoin was, and then people eventually would go to Bitcoin, hence hyperbitcoinization. Bitcoin provides a service that is 10x better than existing solutions. And right now, Bitcoin is still being formed, shaped, maturing, right? Eventually, Bitcoin is going to be the better platform. Right now, we know that Strike has built itself on top of Bitcoin, the Bitcoin payments network. You can send dollars across the Bitcoin payments network at zero cost. If you use Visa and MasterCard, you got fees, corporate fees you got to pay for that's just a tax, right? With Bitcoin and Strike, you can just zip money back and forth. The problem with that is most businesses are not equipped to handle and accept payment through Strike, but Strike's working on that, and they've partnered with a lot of the merchant services companies to allow that to happen. So look for that more in the future, Strike having a bigger impact than it does today. Large tech companies accepting Bitcoin as a payment option, that might come to pass. And then financial industry develops more Bitcoin products. Not. Pay attention, people. Breaking news. Guess who is going to create a Bitcoin ETF? None other than BlackRock. That's right, BlackRock. One of the largest institutions out there when it comes to money. They are now going to file with the SEC to have a Bitcoin ETF. And they're going to custody it with none other than Coinbase, the same Coinbase that's getting sued by the SEC, and that's actually countersuing the SEC. Something tells me that they're going to come out smelling like roses, and they're going to be even more powerful than they are right now. Listen, you got to admit it. Most people use Coinbase to buy Bitcoin. Why? They made it fast, easy, simple. People do it. And people hold their Bitcoin there and they trust them, yada, yada. When FTX went down, a lot of people thought that was going to be the end of exchanges. Not true. Not true at all. And if people think that these lawsuits, this fight phase is going to be the end of exchanges, centralized exchanges, not true. Not true. Won't happen. That's my opinion. I know. Just my opinion. All right. Let's get on to how many sats do you really need? And again, like I said before, this is going to be based on you. But these two videos I have here talked about two types of Bitcoins that you're going to need. One, he was talking about having 0.01 Bitcoin is going to make you a millionaire, i.e. when Bitcoin reaches $100 million, which he thought was going to happen around the year 2032. Okay. I've already said that if you have 1 million Satoshis, that could happen, right? You have $1 million, and that's sort of his argument. Then you've got another video, and this is all Coin Daily. They've done both of these. One of them said that 6.25, right? He's talking about and that was a deal, if you remember, and I'm going to forget his name. I should have had his name written down. He's made a lot of Twitter spaces. He talks a lot, and he talks with the Bitcoin Maxi guys all the time, and with Peter McCormick. But he's made bets with Peter McCormick. But he owns 6.25 Bitcoin, right? And that's the number that he believes that he's going to need to be able to be free, right? And again, when we talk about freedom, for me, freedom means that you have your time, right? You have your time to do what you want, when you want, how you want. You can buy what you want. You can go anywhere you want. You can do whatever. You're free. You're not controlled and constricted by the government. You can pick up and leave. You just have freedom. And I think that whatever number that is for you, you need to have some type of plan in place. And I'll get to that later in the show. But the reality is, I can't tell you, hey, just get 0.01 Bitcoin, you're good to go. Not true, because I don't know your situation. I don't know your debt. I don't know if you got kids. I don't know if you're going to be paying for weddings. I don't know your lifestyle. I don't know what you want to buy. I don't know what the quality of life you have. Do you like Gucci? Do you like Louis Vuitton? I don't know, Versace. I'm not a brand guy, right? So the amount I need, the amount you need, it's all over the place. The thing I would encourage you to do is just to stack sats. Okay, and that sounds cheesy, but stack sats. So on the next slide, I asked, is Bitcoin for everyone? And again, this is where we got a big fallacy. Because in the Bitcoin bros community, right, the Bitcoin maxis on Bitcoin Twitter, all this other nonsense, everybody says, oh, Bitcoin's for everyone. I take a little issue with that. Here's the reason why. Listen, normal people don't have the luxury that some people have in buying Bitcoin. One, it's a highly volatile asset. These normal people, they need money now. They can't just be socking money away and storing money away. Normal people struggle to have $500 for an emergency. They have to put that on a credit card. Why? Because they don't have the money in the bank. Normal people. This is the majority of the people in the United States. Normal people. Average people, maybe. These are people that have make it pretty decent. They're sort of middle class, right? They're making, 50, 100K, somewhere around there, and they're living okay. They might have a little disposable income based on their family structure, based on who they are. They could probably sock some Bitcoin away. You got the above average people. These are people that, making above, 6 figures. They still not, they're not Beyonce and Jay-Z, but they're average people. And then you got the 1%ers. 1%ers probably aren't even touching Bitcoin at this point, because those people don't even have to touch Bitcoin and look at Bitcoin. Ask Warren Buffett. What does he say? Bitcoin's rat poison squared, right? To get the 1%ers, they look at Bitcoin and they laugh, right? They got enough money. They don't need more money. They don't need more freedom. They don't need more time. They got that already. And so what is Bitcoin really going to do for them? Especially a Warren Buffett. The dude will... No offense, Warren, if you watch it, but he got one foot in the grave, right? The guy's going to be gone soon. All that money is not going to do him any good. He's already achieved what he needed to achieve. The 1%ers do not care about Bitcoin. And as a matter of fact, most of the 1%ers probably have one foot in the grave. Most of their money is going to go to their millennial kids. That's right, to the millennial kids. So they really are not worried about Bitcoin. The people that are most worried about Bitcoin right now is that middle section, the average people, above average people. This is where the grind is for most of us. And this is the people that should be paying attention. What normal people should be doing, and again, I don't mean this is an attack on anybody, you need to work to create value and make a difference, because if you do that, you'll start making some disposable income, and then you can put that disposable income into Bitcoin. That's the only way for you to get into Bitcoin. Now, some people will disagree with me, and I understand that. You probably leave me some comments, hate comments. Some people probably say, well, Paul, normal people can buy Bitcoin. They just need to discipline themselves and save, right? So on the next slide, and I'm glad you said that, because this is exactly what Mark Yusko said. Bitcoin is the best savings technology on the planet. If anyone is saving money anywhere other than Bitcoin, you're doing it wrong. You're doing it wrong. You got to save in Bitcoin. Why? Because over time, not a week, not a month, not a year, over time, Bitcoin is going to outperform everything else. So if you're saving your money in Bitcoin, and this can't be your emergency fund, this can't be your rainy day fund, this needs to be your long-term 401k type fund, that you're putting this money there with the intent to never touch it for the next 20, 30, 40 years, then it's the best savings technology the world's ever seen. You can't get any better. Zero at the beginning when Bitcoin was created to today, 14 years later, Bitcoin's $25,000. Not bad, right? For 14 years. Back when it was zero, if you bought 100 Bitcoin, which would have cost you, let's just give it $1. 100 Bitcoin, $100. Today, you're sitting on, what was it, 250? No, 2.5 mil, right? Yeah, 2.5 mil. Not bad, right? Not bad. So it's a savings technology. Please use it as such. Now, planning. I have to bring this up because I ask this question a lot of people. People don't plan. Forget about Bitcoin. Do you have a plan for your life? Do you even know what you want to achieve in your life? Most people shrug. I don't know. What do you want to do? No. You just live life every day. You get up, go to work, come home. Get up, go to work, come home. Go to bed. Go. Same routine, day in, day out. What are you trying to achieve in your life? Do you have a plan? You got to have a plan. Life is a game. It has rules, and there should be an outcome that you plan to win. Winning looks different for all of us. Failure looks the same for all of us, right? If you do not achieve what you plan to achieve, you have failed. You have failed the city. Don't fail yourself. Have a plan. So the first thing I have challenging you guys to do, are you stacking sats? If you're not stacking sats, start stacking sats. You've got tons of tools to stack sats with. Cash App, Venmo, Strike, Coinbase. I mean, I go through all of them. You can stack sats, people. I just showed you how much a Satoshi costs. It costs you nothing, right? Stack 1 million of them, that's 250. I don't care if you stack, let's just say you stacked 12 million Satoshis, right? 250 every month. You got 12 million Satoshis. What did we say 1 million was going to be in 2030? We said it was going to be $1 million, right? Somewhere up in that neighborhood. Same thing applies. If you bought 1 million Satoshis a day, you could very well have $1 million. Why would you not do that? I don't know. Then the next thing is, where are you hodling those Satoshis? If you are going to leave those Satoshis on an exchange, woe is you. Because if anything happens to the exchange, bye-bye Satoshis, right? We learned this the hard way. Some people learned it at Mt. Gox. Some of us learned it with the CeFi and FTX fiasco, right? Voyager, BlockFi, Celsius, gone, right? Do not leave your Satoshis where you do not own them. And then the last piece is, what happens when you depart the earth? You go bye-bye. Does your Satoshis go bye-bye too because you didn't do the right plan and you didn't tell your family and you didn't use on-chain capital that can do multi-sig, that allows you to have a key, your family to have a key, and them to have a key? Anything happens to you, they still get it. Anything happens on-chain, you still own it. You've got to think about this stuff, people. I asked the question today on WooBits. Do you have a plan? Everyone that responded was like, no, but I should be thinking about that. Yeah, you should be thinking about that. There's a great podcast today, Inheritance Planning 101, talking about trust, right? This was from the Stephan Livera podcast with Peter Dunworth. He was talking about trust. Now, I don't necessarily agree with him about the trust he's talking about. He's talking about a testamentary trust, or testamentary trust. I can't say that word. But trust is something you need to look into. And I'm not going to make this one about a trust, but there are certain types of trust out there that provides asset protection and tax mitigation. That's right, mitigation. It excludes taxation on capital gains, income, extraordinary dividends. These are things you need to know about. Asset protection, inheritance planning, estate planning, and tax mitigation. If you want to know more, leave me a comment. I can share a lot of this information with you. I will tell you right now, though, the types of trust I'm talking about, it's not for normal people, unfortunately. Types of trust I'm talking about are incredibly expensive to get into, and they're incredibly expensive to maintain. So unless you've got a lot of moolah, it's not going to work for you. But that being said, there are still other trust vehicles out there for you, and there are other ways. As a matter of fact, Unchained Capital is working in this area. Please do me a favor. Go check out Unchained Capital. They have several plans. One is totally free. So if you're someone who understands crypto, you can do it yourself. Then they have it white glove service. And then they have other services as well. So check them out. Here's the rule of the wealthy. Own nothing. Control everything. And that's what you want to do. People don't understand. Having stuff in your name is dangerous. Get it out of your name and put it into a trust. That way, when you go bye-bye, your trustees continue to keep things going. Generational wealth, Bitcoin can create generational wealth. You want to protect it. Folks, I hope you enjoyed today's show. It was a lot of fun going through all this stuff. I get a little amped up when I talk about this stuff because it is really, really life-changing stuff. And if you would take and, yeah, please check this stuff out. Now, I'm going to have this video on my website, thecryptocurator.com. That's where I put the news every day. I only put now one article a day on there. Why? Of course, my link to my brief is up there so you get all the news. But I highlight one because, to be honest, that's pretty much the only important thing. And right now, BlackRock is the news of the day, folks. This ETF, if they come out with it, and if it's a spot ETF, that would be crazy because they would jump over Grayscale, and that would be crazy if they get the ETF and not Grayscale. But I can see the SEC approving that, which would be bad. Is it SEC? Yeah, SEC. Yeah, Bitcoin ETF. Yeah, SEC. So definitely check out my website. I have my videos on there. I have a video and a podcast every day. That's where you're always going to find everything. You have all my links. You can get to me on Woobits, LinkedIn. I'm not on Twitter anymore. But of course, my producer keeps trying to pull me back on Twitter. And every once in a while, I do go back on Twitter because I want to highlight something like today. Mayor Francis Suarez, if you're watching, congratulations for putting your foot into the campaign for 2024. I hope you go far. I wouldn't mind if you became president. We need younger people to run for office, and hat tip to Francis Suarez, Mayor Suarez, for running. Folks, what a show, huh? Wasn't it good? That's awesome. Hey, so listen, next Thursday, I'll be back with Bitcoin and politics. I'm sure I have a lot to talk about, most likely probably talking about Mayor Suarez. Hopefully he'll make some more news. Our Bitcoin Live family have a lot of shows, and I tell you, it's amazing. We've got Gingerly, we've got 3D Changes Perspectives, we've got Jack Ben Switch, there's just so many really good shows. We've got Matty Sats' show, Beyond the Block. Please, whatever you do, check out our family of shows. We got, I think, about 200 subscribers right now. We need to pump that number up, guys. Please send it to your friends. Have them subscribe to our channel. Ring the bell. Like the video. You know the rest of the routine. This has been Paul McNeil, the Crypto Curator. Bitcoin is freedom. You guys have a great weekend. Bye-bye.